we're going to talk about Monte Carlo simulation. So we've talked about the history of Monte Carlo and Monaco, but we're going to speak a little bit to how the pros and cons weigh in for retirement planning. So let's start first with the pros. And with that, pro number one, it does incorporate market volatility uncertainty. That's for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, Monte Carlo basically takes a range of uncertain outcomes and assigns probabilities to them. It runs thousands of simulations and then lands on which probabilities it thinks may or may not happen.
Exactly. Good stuff. Number two, it helps in adjusting withdrawal rates. So if you're taking different amounts out, different years, it does incorporate that. So speak some to that.
I think the big point here is that you can play around with it. You could say, well, what if I withdrew 3% a year or $30,000 a year? You can have different inputs. So we'll talk about why that may be a problem here in a second, but you can play around with the Monte Carlo.
Exactly. Next one. Dynamic and flexible. Obviously, that's good in terms it comes to flexibility in retirement planning. We always speak to that with our split IRA concept. But explain a little bit what the Monte Carlo simulation lacks that our flexibility does have.
Sure. Well, Monte Carlo simulation is really just, it's nothing that's guaranteed. It's just here's what probably will or won't happen. It's not here's what will happen. In our split IRA concept, we can show you how to use your money and guarantee an outcome in a worry-free retirement through the use of annuity contracts and our very flexible Charles Schwab platform, what we call the split IRA concept.
Exactly right. Good points. Next one, provides a probability of success.
Yep, that's true. So, I mean, you'll run some of these and they'll say, all right, you've got a 95% probability of making it to 85 and not running out of money. The question, as we'll see here in a minute, becomes, well, what happens if I reach older than 85?
Yeah. I love the question, do I have enough to retire? If I said probably instead of yes, that's going to be a little concerning. But
that's what these will say, probably.
This last one visualizes the range of possible outcomes. So like you said, it is a wide range. All right, Wes, so now we're going to go to the top 5 cons. And this is where we can poke some holes in it. And so number one, it's heavily dependent on the input assumptions.
Definitely. So an old phrase in Wall Street is garbage in, garbage out. Tony tells a pretty funny story of meeting an analyst or an advisor or somebody, and he had asked, well, you know, what is the probable outcome of this product? And I think the person just told him, whatever you want it to be. Yeah. If I put in the numbers, if I put in a 10% rate of return and, you know, you've got $500,000 and you have no debt, I can make it look really, really appealing through a Monte Carlo analysis. But again, it is all based on the assumptions you make inside the analysis.
Exactly. How good do you want it to look?
Sure.
So number two. Fails to account for extreme market events. This is a big one, especially people still remember 2008. Even 2022 was a weird year in the market. Mm-hmm. Speak to what a fat tail is in the market.
Definitely. So thinking back to my Stats 296 days, there were all kinds of different terms. Fat tails, excess kurtosis, there were chi-squared tables, all sorts of weird stuff. But essentially a fat tail just means that outcomes on the outer sides of the probability distributions, what is the likelihood that they happen? So maybe exceptionally great outcomes where you have millions of dollars at the end of retirement, or exceptionally poor outcomes where you retire and eventually run out of money. It does not account for those tails on the other side of that distribution when things really don't work out well.
So it kind of focuses on the sweet spot and not the outliers.
Definitely.
So next one, complexity can be confusing for non-experts. I think this is a theme that goes across finance. They are complex. When you're explaining them, again, there's a lot of uncertainty. So speak to the complexity and how many different variations it runs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's thousands of different outcomes that can be simulated here. And again, you're going to get a big spreadsheet of all these different things that have happened throughout the simulation. It can be really hard to read that output and say, I feel confident about turning my money over to this simulation here. I would rather get a game plan that just showed how much money I could expect in retirement at each step of the game in 5-year increments, kind of the same way we outlay it in our game plans.
Exactly. Next one, underestimates the sequence of return risk. We show this a lot. Pulling money out of accounts when they're down, that's a huge risk in retirement planning, and this doesn't take that into account.
Definitely. And if I were to run a Monte Carlo, what's scary about it is that if I use really risky portfolios, sometimes it will make the outcomes look better because the rate of return, the assumed rate of return, is higher. But let's just say in the first couple years, that wasn't the case. There was a negative 20, a negative 30% return, and you're withdrawing money from the portfolio. That could really be a disastrous outcome for somebody who's trying to live on this money for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's scary stuff. Last one, Wes, it may give overconfidence in high probability results.
Same as point one. If I were to input some really high values into the return assumptions or short assumptions in the number of years we need, I can make this look really good, but it is not the definite outcome of what is guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like, check out these other clips. And be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more videos.